The founding of Flag could really be traced to martial law. Flag owes its existence to this guy. Writs of habeas corpus were filed, no? Kasi dinukot, hindi mahanap. Many of the cases here are not,
Yeah.
but even in defeat, we were able to somehow shape, no? How jurisprudence was written, how rights could be better protected.
And many of the issues that Flag faced 50 years ago are still here. Magandang araw mga kaibigan, ito po si Kaloy Conde para sa isa na namang episode ng Open Talk, itong ating podcast. At pag-uusapan po natin ngayong episode na to ay napakahalaga para sa history natin. At para dyan, makakasama natin isang kapit-kapitagang abogado. Nagtuturo sa UP College of Law, dating spokesman ng Supreme Court or administrator or spokesman ng Supreme Court, at isang matalik na kaibigan ng human rights movement, Attorney Ted Te. Welcome, Ted, sa programa natin.
Salamat, Kaloy. Salamat sa invitasyon.
Siyempre, may okasyon kung bakit nandito si Ted ngayon sa program natin. Hindi lang ito dahil ilang araw na lang ay gugunitain natin ang pagdeklara ng martial law, September 21. But also, ang pinaka-importante sa episode na to ay tungkol dito sa libro na nilathala ng Free Legal Assistance Group. Ito yung tinatawag lang Front Runners for Human Rights. Isang isang napakahalagang libro para sa lahat, hindi lang para sa mga human rights advocates at mga activists but also to the public because this gives us parang isang hindi lang paggunita kundi pag-look back dun sa nangyari noong panahon ng diktadorya. Ted, simulan natin, no? Anong papel mo dito sa libro na to? At by the way pala, si Ted pala ay siya ngayon ang bagong hinalal na chairman ng Free Legal Assistance Group. Dati siya yung coordinator ng Metro Manila NCR chapter, if I'm not mistaken, ng Flag. Pero ngayon siya na po ang buong bansa. Ted, anong papel mo dito sa pagbuo ng libro na to?
Actually, yung libro is, well, I have a copy here. If you can see it. Frontline, it's a nice cover. I can send you a
Yeah.
copy of the cover. Frontliners for Human Rights, no? Ito ay isang commemorative book namin for our 50th year, which was last year, no? Flag was founded 1974, so 50 years na kami. At last year, nagkaroon kami ng pagbabalik tanaw, nagkaroon kami ng mga activities, no? Nationwide, per region. And then, one of the activities na inisip namin ay i-document, no, yung mga kaso na hinawakan ng Flag over the years, no. Imposible i-document lahat
Mhm.
dahil in the course of writing this book, nakita namin na mahigit 9,000 cases ang na-file ng Flag
Oh,
over the course of
wow.
50 years. No? So 9,000 plus cases in various courts, no? And ito isang attempt na i-document yung mga kasong final ng Flag, no? Pinaglaban ng Flag, yung work ng Flag, no? Over the years, not just in Metro Manila because uh, tendency natin nagiging Metro Manila centric tayo dahil
Yeah,
nandito yung
yeah.
Supreme Court, no?
Mhm.
Kung kaya itong librong ito, meron ding mga accounts of lower court cases, no? In
At hindi lang,
various,
sorry, Ted, hindi lang
yeah,
martial
go
law
ahead.
period, ha?
Yes,
Okay.
but it covers martial law period until, as recent as during the pandemic, some of the
Okay.
cases that Flag lawyers handled during the pandemic. So, maraming iba't ibang kaso na finiture namin dito, no, na from the lower courts all the way up to the Supreme Court. Nandito rin ay mga storya, mga kwento ng mga advocacies ng Flag, no. Pangunahin na dito siguro, of course, yung death penalty, which we were
Mhm.
which we were known for in the 90s, the issue of sovereignty, no? May konting kwento dito about the military bases, no? So lahat ng work ng Flag across 50 years, no?
Mhm.
Again, hindi posible na kunin mo yung lahat ng ginawa, no? Kasi 50 years is a very long time.
Yeah, yeah.
But ito isang attempt, no, na i-document. Now, doon sa tanong kung anong kinalaman ko dito, ako'y in-interview, no. May mga hinawakan akong cases na in-interview ako, no. At iba't ibang abogado, no? Nagkaroon kami ng isang initial pool of writers, no, who went through, no, lahat ng records, no. Pwede ka naman sabihin siguro kung sino sila, nasa libro naman, no.
Mhm.
Si Lian Buwan ng Rappler,
Oh,
at
wow.
si Mike Navalio, Jobert Navalio, of course, now the current communications chief of the Supreme Court. At the time nung in-engage namin si Mike, hindi pa siya kinuha ng
Supreme
Supreme
Court,
Court.
yeah. Mm.
So he was in between jobs, no. He was actually on a fellowship in Washington DC, pero sila yung unang kumbaga humulma ng libro, no?
Oh,
So
wow.
binasa nila yung mga records, tapos in-extract nila yung sa tingin nilang interesante doon sa mga records, no? We wanted a non-lawyer's view. But of course, Mike is a lawyer, no? But he's also known as a journalist.
Yeah.
And so we wanted that view, no? Kung ano yung interesante dito sa mga cases. Kasi kung lawyer yung sumulat, very legal yung
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
legal yung dating, ano. But yung unang work ni na Mike at ni Lian ay inedit, no, at siyempre finact check, pinufreed ng isang team of lawyers from Flag. So ito na yung mga tumingin ng mga tama ba yung citation na to.
Mhm.
And then finally may editorial board kami composed of our Secretary General Miss Cookie Diokno, isang lawyer ng Flag na of long standing si Attorney Rafi Aquino. And then we invited Malu Mangahas to be the final, parang she's the one
And a
keeping
look.
us honest for the
Oh,
final look, no? Because we wanted to be sure, no? Kasi so yun. So ang papel ko dito ay bilang ano lang, resource person. But of course, as interim chair of Flag, no, I am proud to be part of the launch, no, the
yeah,
nationwide
yeah.
launch of this book. So yeah, it's called Frontliners for Human Rights: Flag of the People at 50. So it
Wow.
features stories, accounts, no, some of them behind the scenes, no, stories of lawyers, no, of Flag lawyers, some clients, no, and medyo malawak yung kino-cover na cases, no? For example, yung mga rebellion and subversion cases na hinawakan ng Flag for many of its clients from the left, no? And then of course, we talk about student cases, academic freedom cases.
Yeah.
May mga labor cases kami dito tungkol sa pagwewelga. Meron din kaming mga cases, of course, about the death penalty. Then we also discuss cases involving economic rights, no?
Yeah.
Hindi siguro masyadong alam ng lahat na Flag had the occasion to litigate as well some economic issues involving the downstream oil industry
Mhm.
as well as electric rates, no, electricity rates na umakyat kami sa Supreme Court. So those are some of the cases na
Yeah,
feature
yeah.
dito, no?
Wow, that's mukhang heavy pero just on Lian and Mike, good friends, you couldn't have found
Mm,
better writers or a team of editors to handle that. I
mm.
mean, these are terrific journalists. Of all those cases na binanggit mo, Ted, saan yung nag-stand out sa'yo in terms of not just being compelling, but also in terms of what they represent in sa human rights movement na tipong to mga kaso na to, these are, I wouldn't say landmark or anything, but they have some such significance.
Yeah, siguro madami, no, but siguro sa akin yung mga cases during martial law involving habeas corpus petitions, no?
Mhm.
Many of these cases hindi ganun kakilala. Of course, ang kilalang respondent dito ay si Enrile kasi at that
Yeah.
time Secretary of Defense siya. So halos lahat ng habeas corpus cases sa kanya fina-file, no? But there are cases involving people for whom writs of habeas corpus were filed, no? Kasi dinukot, hindi mahanap, no? At ang sagot ng Korte Suprema parati noon, nung panahon na yun, ay wala kaming magawa dahil nag-deny yung military na nasa kanila, no?
Mm,
At hindi
okay.
kayang lagpasan ng Supreme Court yung denial, no? Dahil under the rules at that time, yun lang talaga ang pwedeng gawin. Pag
Mhm.
sinabi ng military, wala sa amin, no? Eh
Mhm.
hindi na pwedeng lumagpas yung Korte Suprema, no?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I cite that as an important set of cases kasi kahit na sabihin natin hindi kami nanalo, no? Doon sa mga kaso, the the persistence, no, of Flag lawyers of filing habeas corpus cases, coming up with new arguments, no, eventually led to the court also pushing for a new form, a new writ, no, which was amparo, no, and
Yeah,
later
yeah.
habeas data, no. So, in fact, Flag handled the first ever petition for amparo involving two brothers, no, the Manalo brothers, who were
Yeah.
abducted and later escaped, no, at
Mm.
dahil doon ang Korte Suprema ay nag-rule na ang writ of amparo ay isang mabisang pamamaraan upang bantayan, no, ang karapatan nila kahit na hindi na sila disappeared kasi nung una disappeared sila eh.
Mhm.
Eh later nag-surface sila kasi nakatakas sila. Dahil may panganib pa rin, no? Sila ay insecure, no? In the words
Yeah.
of the court, they have the right to security dahil takot sila na puntahan sila ng military, guluhin yung pamilya nila. Kaya inisyo ng court yung writ, no? So, sa akin, mahalaga yun.
Yeah, yeah.
Yung pangalawang case siguro that I found, interesting and compelling was a case filed during the Gloria Arroyo administration involving freedom of assembly, which is and freedom of expression, which is one of Flag's core advocacies, no? This involved yung calibrated preemptive response, yung
Oh,
CPR,
yeah.
no?
Yeah.
Flag was one of the petitioners that filed the case, challenging not just CPR, but yung Public Assembly Act, no? Ano pa to? Batas Pambansa 880, Marcos time, no? Marcos Senior time. Na ito yung ginagamit hanggang ngayon para supilin yung yung karapatan na magtipon-tipon, no? Dahil sasabihin nila no permit, no rally, no?
Mhm.
So, kinasuhan ng Flag, no, yung administration asking that CPR be declared null and void, no?
Yeah.
And that we also asked that BP 880 be declared null and void, no? Ah, ano to, win and lose ito, no? Hindi kami nanalo dun sa BP 880, no? Pero CPR was declared null and void for being actually not for being violative, no, but for being a surplusage kasi meron ng moot and academic na siya kasi
Mhm.
nilift na ni Gloria, no?
Mhm.
Pero ang may mahalagang sinabi kasi ang Korte Suprema doon that not a lot of people are aware of, no? Na binigyan ng Korte Suprema, writing through Justice Adolph Ascuna, yung lahat ng local governments, no, ng period of time to declare a freedom park in their area. Kasi doon ka lang sa Freedom Park pwede mag-assemble under the law, no,
Mhm.
nang
Mhm.
walang permit, no.
Permit,
Eh
yeah.
dahil hindi naman lahat nag-designate na Freedom Park, sabi ng Korte Suprema, mag-designate kayo. Otherwise, consider namin na may Freedom Park na yan. So,
Oh,
that's
okay.
practically a two-liner, no, in that case, no. So, maraming ganung kwento dito sa librong ito. Kaya gusto ko yung piniling mga cases, no? Kasi I had no hand in choosing the cases. It was
Yeah.
really Lian, and Mike, no, and the team that chose the cases. Many of the cases here are not really wins, no?
Yeah.
But even in defeat, no, nakikita namin that we were able to somehow shape, no, how jurisprudence was written, how rights could be better protected, no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yun, siguro yung pinakapaborito ko. Of course, including the death penalty cases na
Yeah.
napakadami.
Yeah.
But those two, no, significant yan sa akin dahil nakita ko doon yung influence, no, of just being persistent, no. Kahit
Yeah.
natalo ka, file ka pa rin, no?
Oo.
Hanap ka ng
Oo.
bagong argument. At some point in time, the court will be ready to accept the argument.
That's the thing with being a lawyer and especially a public interest law because I'm not a lawyer, I don't have background in law, but I see there that the persistence of lawyers such as those in Flag can redound quite well to the public. I mean, I didn't know na yung pala yung genesis nung pag-designate ng mga Freedom Park. I mean, we
Freedom
all
Park says.
we
Yeah.
we all take for granted, oh, may Freedom Park. What actually is this? Parang ganun, di ba? Pero
Mm-mm.
ito pala yun, di ba? So that's really
Yes.
interesting. Now, Ted, I would like us to go a little bit back into the founding of Flag. I mean, what was the impetus? What preceded it? Was there some were there events? I mean, obviously, 1974, we are in the thick of martial law, and a lot of things happened at the time. Can you walk us back to that period, hanggang sa mabuo yung Flag, and then we can proceed later
Yeah.
kung sa present. Yeah.
Siguro Kaloy, I'll start with a disclaimer, no, na 6 na taon ako nung dineklara yung martial law, 1972.
Lalo
And
naman ako.
walong, walong taon ako nung na-found yung flag, ano?
Okay.
So, but of course these are uh, stories, anecdotes that were passed on, no, from my elders, my seniors in flag, no.
Mhm.
Uh, Kasama siyempre doon si Chel, no. But the founding of flag could really be traced to martial law. In fact, in one presentation, I actually started with a slide of the face of Marcos, and I put the face there and I said to the audience, flag owes its existence to this guy. Kasi kung hindi dahil sa kanya, kung hindi dahil sa nagdeklara siya ng martial law at ikinulong niya na yung napakadaming tao, no, na nag-dissent or could dissent against him, including one of Flag's founders, no, Ka Pepe Diok, no, Flag would not have found its existence, no. Ka Pepe was detained from 1972 till mga 1974, no. He and Ninoy Aquino were the two of the longest detainees, no. At eventually naunang na-release si Ka Pepe bago kay, of course, bago kay Ninoy, no. But when after he was released, no, from detention, mind you, no charges at all, and the two of them were also placed in solitary, no, in Laur. And so after he was released, no, nagkaroon siya ng realization na hindi pwedeng business as usual kasi yung martial law changed everything, changed the entire paradigm, changed the entire paradigm of how constitutionalism works or is supposed to work in the Philippines, change how law operates, no? Dahil isang tao na lang ang nagde-decide kung ano yung batas eh, no? At it changed also how lawyers are supposed to work. Dahil yung unang dilema doon, no, ng mga abogado katulad ni Kapepe ay pag ginawa mo yung tungkulin mo sa ilalim ng batas at yung batas ay sinulat ng isang tao, eh hindi ba tumutulong ka dun sa isang taong yun? Yung kabilang side naman ay pag hindi mo ginawa yung tungkulin mo, yung sinumpang tungkulin mo, at tatalikuran mo yun, ay ang option mo doon ay sumama ka doon sa armadong pakikibaka, no? Yun yung dalawang extreme. Somehow, naghanap siya ng gitna, no?
Mhm.
Na kailangan, dahil abogado siya at alam niya, dati siyang justice secretary, dati trial lawyer siya, bago siya naging senador, alam niya na kailangan pa rin niyang gawin yung tungkulin niya dahil maraming nangangailangan ng tulong, no, under martial law. But he did not want to simply accept the law because the law was the source of injustice, no. Marcos's dictatorship really destroyed the law and the constitution. And so he came up with this philosophy that Flag uses. It's our core philosophy. It's called developmental legal advocacy. And the core premise of that, no, is that uh, the role of law and lawyers, no, cannot just simply be accepted at face value. There must be there must be a critical understanding of the value of law, the role of lawyers, no. Kapag ang batas ay nagiging sanhi ng injustice, no, at paglabag ng karapatan, baliwala yung batas, no? Hindi
Yeah.
mo pwedeng gamitin dahil hindi nakakatulong yung batas, no? Dahil hindi mo pwedeng ilabagin yung batas, no? Maghanap ka ng ibang paraan kung paano siya ma para makamtan yung katarungan, no? At dito pumasok yung batayang karapatan, no? Yung fundamental rights that are recognized in international documents. And even in the Constitution, even in Marcos's Constitution, he had a Bill of Rights, which
Yeah.
was more observed in the breach, no? But sa pananaw ni Kapepe under DLA, kapag ikaw ay abogado at gusto mong tumulong, gusto mong magbigay ng legal aid, hindi na sapat yung tutulong ka, tatayo ka sa korte, sabihin mo, ako po yung abogado ng depensa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dahil pag tinignan mo yung batas, yung batas ay walang tulong sa kliyente mo. Baka nagiging mas masama pa sa'yo, no?
Problema
So,
pa.
ang view niya ngayon, ang view niya ngayon, kailangan mong ituring yung batas, look at the law in a critical lens. Uh, if the law needs to change, then move for change. But one thing was very important to Kapepe, no? And that's why he called it for lack of a better term at the time, he coined it and said developmental legal advocacy. he was very, very concerned about the right to development of our people, no, under martial law. The loss of sovereignty, no, made development very difficult. So sa kanya, hindi yung papel ng abogado, no, very radical at that time, hindi nalilimita sa pag-appeal sa korte, sa pagtayo doon at sabi mo, ako'y abogado para sa akusado, no? Ang papel ng abogado ay ituro kung ano yung karapatan ng mga tao, no? Kung kaya't nag-umpisa siya sa mga estudyante, no? Ako, Kaloy, nag-umpisa ako, paralegal ako nung nasa UP College of Law. First year, I was a paralegal under flag, no?
Oh,
And ang
wow.
ginagawa namin noon ay umikot sa mga basic sectors at ituro sa kanila yung batas, ituro sa kanila yung constitution. At the time, it was a new constitution, 1987. Kakasulat pa lang, kakaratify pa lang. Ituro sa kanila yung batay ng karapatan nila, their constitution. Ituro sa kanila the laws that affect them and give them practical skills. Because sa pananaw ni Kapepe, mahalaga yon upang yung mga tao mismo ay maaring tumulong sa sarili, no? Developmental. He did not want uh, the people to be dependent on lawyers.
Lawyers, yeah.
Dahil nga, yung pag naging dependent ka sa abogado, wala kang alam eh, di ba?
Mhm.
Ang hindi naman dapat ganun. Kasi pwede naman na ituro yung batas, pwede ituro yung karapatan. That's what flag also does, no? When we take on cases, we don't just take on cases for the sake of appearing in court.
Yeah.
We do strategic litigation, but even outside of our cases, many flag lawyers educate. Many flag lawyers teach rights, no? And that's why also now many flag lawyers of various ages are teachers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chell was the dean of De La Salle, no? I
Yeah.
teach. Many lawyers, many flag lawyers teach, no? Dahil yun yung natural inclination namin. At hindi ito common sa mga lawyers at that time, no? So that's
Yeah.
how flag developed. So
Yeah.
hindi lamang kami nagbibigay ng legal assistance, we practice a different kind of law that leverages actually on the collective right to self-determination of a people, no?
Or yeah, tipong parang
Fully
legal
informed of their
empowerment.
rights, making their own decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Legal empowerment, yes, making
Yeah.
their own decisions, no?
Yeah.
Dahil madali sa abogado or paralegal na sabihin, ito gawin mo.
Mhm.
Pero mag-file tayo ng kaso. Pero pag-file mo ng kaso, pagkatapos sa korte, manalo ka at matalo, uwi ka.
Mhm.
Okay ka, makaka-uwi ka, mawala yung problema mo. Pero yung tao, nandun yung problema.
Ano pa? Yeah.
Harapin nila yung problema nila, di ba? So, sa pananaw namin noon, no, ng flag dati hanggang ngayon, no, hindi dapat yun. Dahil sila ang may problema, dapat sa kanila din manggagaling yung desisyon kung ano
Yeah.
yung solusyon sa problema, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
At ang papel namin doon ay tulungan sila na makuha yung solusyon na yun, no? So yun,
Ted,
that's how we view law.
yeah. Meron bang ano, just on that, meron bang particular context at that time kasi I mean, sa pangalan pa lang no, legal assistance,
Mm.
you would think na unang basa mo ay tipong sandali ano ba to, pro bono
Mm.
services, pero meron bang particular context at that time, and I imagine it's this being martial law na maraming hinuhuli ng walang mga abogado
Yeah.
at kailangan nila ng abogado. Ito ba yon? Ito ba yung context nun, outside of what you just said? Ito ba yung direct na
Initially,
context nun? Yeah? Can you
initially
recall
yes, no?
can you recall yung mga earlier
Ini-
cases niyo on that one?
Initially yes, no? Dahil maraming nahuli, maraming nawawala, no? Maraming nangangailangan ng abogado at maraming abogado takot na humawak ng kaso kung ang kalaban gobyerno. So,
Yeah.
at the time, dahil martial law, no? So, yun yung impetus. Si Kapepe, si Katani, si Senator Tanyada, they were part of the Civil Liberties Union, the old
Yeah.
Civil Liberties Union, no, patterned after the American Civil
American,
Liberties
yeah.
Union. Oo. But nag-evolve na sila eh. Many of them also took part in the creation and formation of flag eh. Maraming initial lawyers ay galing doon sa old Civil Liberties Union. So, dahil lang may need talaga at the time at hindi naman tinatalikuran ng flag yon. Kasi kailangan
Mhm.
talaga ng abogado. Hindi lamang yung sa pagbabago ng batas, kailangan pa rin may tumayo para sa mga nangangailangan sa korte, no? Mag-file ng mga kaso, yung mga habeas corpus na sinabi ko kanina, kailangan
Mhm.
talaga ng abogado. So,
Yeah.
yes, yun yung kumbaga naging seed, no, kung paano nag-umpisa ito. But of course, in the course of their practice, no, during that time, nakita nila there's something that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Hindi pwedeng ganito lang, no? Kasi pag ganito, talagang limited yung magagawa ng abogado at the time. Dahil hindi ka pa umaapak sa korte, ay talo ka na,
Yeah,
no?
yeah.
Kasi yung batas ay nakasulat laban sa'yo.
At saka hindi rin siguro matatawaran yung impluwensya ng flag papunta dun sa nung ang ibang mga lawyers group na tinayo ay kumbaga nag-ugat din
Mm,
doon, ano? We're talking about the
yes.
UPL, National Union People's Lawyer, and also the public interest law firm ni Yumaong Romy Capulong, and many of these progressive lawyers na hanggang ngayon ay talagang tumitindig para sa karapatan ng mga inaapi, ano? Marami sa kanila ngayon. They're representing people, victims of the drug
Yeah.
war, pati yung center law, na Attorney Butoyan tsaka ni Gilbert Andres. So, in other words, the whole it's almost like you can trace the whole history of public interest lawyering in the Philippines, progressive lawyering in the Philippines to flag. I mean, hindi ko dinidiminish yung ano ngayon ng mga bagong lawyers, but I mean, argument can be made, sorry, an argument can be made na matrace mo talaga doon, no? Um,
Mm.
yeah, go ahead. You were saying.
Yeah, I was going to say, yes, we do see that, no, and of course, and I totally agree with you that we do not want to diminish the role of these lawyers groups. They're very very important, no, but I think the environment that Flag allowed, no, by proposing this kind of view of law and the role of lawyers, no, was so influential, was so
Yeah,
significant that
that's true.
met generations of lawyers, no. My generation, I entered law school fresh out of EDSA. 86 ako eh. So
Mhm.
nakita namin yung pagbuo ng 87 Constitution. Tinuro namin yon sa mga sektor, no, na ano ibig sabihin nitong bagong saligang batas na ito. Tinuro namin yan. So many of these generations, no, started to develop a kind of practice that was non-traditional, no. Uh, Even before, no, nung panahon pa ni Marcos during the dying days of martial law, uh, Flag also saw in a sense, no, a spin-off, a collaboration with a different kind of lawyers group, Mabini, no? Many
Yeah.
many from
Oh,
Mabini
Rene
came from Flag,
Sagisags,
no?
yeah.
Many came from Flag, no? And hindi sila necessarily adversarial to each other. Magkaiba lang talaga yung pananaw, no? Mabini was more politically oriented.
Mhm.
Flag really was focusing on law reform, strategic litigation, no? Mabini, ang pananaw nila, magandang sumali doon sa electoral process, magandang
Mhm.
sumali doon sa nangyayaring politika, no? And
Mhm.
so that's why many flag lawyers also joined Mabini kasi yun yung
Which
pananaw
was
nila,
yeah, which was the demand of the times, I suppose. And
which was
also
the demand at the time.
just on that, I remember Ted that there are international lawyers groups who relied
Mm,
on Flag, and I
yeah,
think also Mabini in their own
yeah,
documentation in the Philippines. Because I know a colleague of mine in Human Rights Watch, James Ross, he used
yes,
to be with a Lawyers
yeah,
Committee for Human Rights, and he came
right.
to the
Lawyers Committee on
Philippines
Human Rights.
with the help of Flag lawyers in documenting
Yes,
the
flag worked with
paramilitary
them.
abuses, yeah, in the 80s. So that's importante yun
Yes,
eh, yung mga ganong klaseng solidarity
yes,
tsaka
yes,
engagement.
yes.
Uh, to pivot a little bit to the present situation, Ted, as we wind down
Mm,
this conversation, obviously ngayon, yung mga challenges na hinaharap ng Flag at many other lawyers group, I mean, ang dami pa rin, no? But really, in the course of my work, for instance, when I was with Human Rights Watch, not just on the drug war victims, pero kahit na yung sa mga ordinary mga cases ng mga human rights violations, yung tindi nung lack of access to justice, to legal
mm,
representation, lack of access to legal remedy, ay ang tindi.
yeah,
A good friend of ours, I know you know him, Raymond Narag. I'm not
yeah,
sure if he's a lawyer, but he basically just threw the door wide open on this problem in the detention centers in the Philippines.
yeah.
But, beyond that, meron talagang noon pa yung access to justice na problem. How is Flag now kind of navigating this? I mean, obviously, marami na kayong mga kabarong lawyer na tumutulong din sa lugar na to. Pero ang isa pang obvious dito is that yung problema ng lack of access to justice ay hindi nawawala. In fact, tingin natin,
Yeah.
lumalala pa. Saan lulugar ngayon ng flag dito?
Yeah, tama 'yun, no? Ang ang role ng flag nga kasi right also has also evolved no over the years. Hindi lamang sa paglilitigate ng kaso, but also in helping out in changing the law, changing the rules. For example, flag sits on committees of the Supreme Court to change the rules, to develop new rules, no? Including rules on to make amparo, for example, the writs of amparo and habeas corpus more meaningful, no? Uh, to make the rules on hopefully the rules on kalayaan, the writ of kalayaan will soon come out, no? To address yung issues of PDLs and access to
Mhm.
justice. But access to justice has always been one of Flag's core advocacies. Dahil nakikita talaga namin hindi lang sapat talaga na magbigay ka ng abogado, na mag-provide ka ng abogado. Kailangan gawin mo na mas madali makakuha ng abogado or di kaya bawasan mo yung mga opportunities na mangangailangan siya ng abogado. So, ganun yung mga tinitingnan namin. So, we have also been, you know, active in, for example, some issues in Congress. Flag has been over the years asked to contribute to legislative work by giving our policy positions on certain bills that affect civil rights, human rights, no, basic fundamental rights, no. So dun sa mga specific issues, for example, that Raymond raised, no, Raymond Narag raised, uh, we agree with them, no. Kailangan talaga ng, in a sense, systemic structural change
Yeah.
in the way these things are done, no. Overcrowding, for example, congestion, hindi sapat yan na bilisan mo. Kasi
Mhm.
ang problema doon sa pagsabi mo na dapat speed up mo lang yung cases.
Mhm.
Ang problema din, marami pumapasok na cases. Hindi
Yeah.
lamang sa hindi lamang sa mabagal ang cases, marami talaga pumapasok na cases, no? And then you have very few courts because not a lot of judges are appointed dahil medyo mabagal din yung pag-appoint ng judge. So, marami kang ganon, no? And then you have issues about overstaying detainees, no?
Mhm.
Wherein many of the, I think, fixes, no, many of the solutions are quite easy, no? Meron tayong rules sa ilalim ng rules of court na kapag yung isang detainee ay nakaserve na ng minimum in detention, minimum na kanyang preso, yung sentence na assuming makonvict siya in jail,
Mhm.
dapat laya na kaagad yan, no?
But that's not
Habang
happening
inaantay niya,
actually, ah.
yes,
Not a
it's
lot.
not happening. You know why it's not happening? Simply because not all of the executive judges are able to see the numbers.
Yeah.
'Di ba? Kasi on top of their docket, they're managing the courts, right? But no one is giving them the numbers to say, "Hey, look, itong mga detainees na to, sobra na ng minimum to mga to." Right? Dapat nakalaya na yung mga yan, 'di ba?
Mhm.
So, th- that's one quick fix eh. That's low-hanging fruit, no?
Yeah.
Madali mong ilabas yan. Just get the numbers.
Yeah.
Yung good conduct time allowance na sinasabi before na naging issue nung panahon ni Duterte, no? That's again a low-hanging fruit. Madaling i-compute yan, ilan yung preso na dapat nang lumaya kasi may GCTA na sila at dahil dun sa GCTA nila, ilalabas na na-serve out na nila yung sentence sila.
Mm.
Halimbawa lamang. So yung mga ganon, no? So
Yeah.
yes, Flag has been also active there, no? Not only in filing test cases, strategic litigation, but also in participating in policy formulation.
Pero yun nga, no? Dahil nga ang orientation ng flag is development legal assistance. Maganda ito kasi ang kahihinat na nito, hindi, yun nga, sabi mo, hindi lang naman dapat nagnotaryo ka lang, you know? Kailangan mong
Mm,
i-empower yung mga kliyente mo rin to be able to
yeah.
at least think for themselves kung ano yung mga hinaharap nila, no? Pero yung isa pa dito is that at the risk of sounding like we're asking lawyers to be activists themselves, there's a reason why, uh, you know, a lot of us in the human rights community almost sometimes demand that lawyers be progressive thinkers as well, because it's not a simple matter of, again, representation, legal representation, but also kailangan mong umaksyon para ma-prevent mo yung whatever legal problems that created these problems to begin with. As sinabi mo nga kanina, di ba?
Mm,
So And I think malinaw na yung naging papel ng flag dyan, no? Uh, Bilang panghuli, Ted, sa buwan na to, siyempre, anniversary ng martial law at tama-tama lang na pinag-uusapan natin to. And I mean, many of the issues that flag faced 50 years ago are still here. Granting na may maraming nagbago and granting that this president, the son of the dictator who uh, precipitated the creation of flag, is the president. I mean, we're not saying that everything is hunky-dory ngayon, pero may mga nagbabago. Ano ang panghuli kong tanong sa iyo, Ted, ano ang tingin mo ang pinakamatinding hamon sa flag? I mean, hindi lang sa flag, but all the other lawyers ngayon when it comes to protecting civil liberties and human rights. I mean, obviously, hindi lang din lack of access to justice, but there may be some other things that we haven't touched.
Sa akin siguro yung importante dito yung maitatag uli, maitatag uli yung institutions of accountability, particularly for fundamental rights, no?
Yeah.
The empowerment of the CHR as a national monitoring system, no? Naging malakas yung CHR at certain times of its existence, no? But during Duterte's time, nawala yun, no? Ay dahil malakas ang CHR at the time, Chito Gascon was the chair, tinuring niyang kalaban, no?
Yeah, yeah.
And so CHR and groups that seek to defend rights, no, cannot just be set aside and said na ano lang, diyan lang kayo, no?
Mhm.
In fact, dapat may priority yan. Kasi nga ang hindi pwedeng ma-normalize yung nangyari, no? So many of the institutions of accountability, protection of rights, no, were really set aside for the last 6 years, yung 6 years ni Duterte. At kailangan maitayo at maipalakas uli ito. So I think yun yung isang very crucial, no? Right now, everyone is talking accountability, but in relation to corruption, flood control.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
sa akin kasi matatrace back mo kasi yan dun sa again, babalik tayo no martial law, no? We've never had a proper accounting
Yeah.
of what happened during martial law, who was accountable during martial law, right? And
Mm.
so that talaga magiging totoo yung never again. Kaya
Yeah.
natin uulit-ulit, no? Kaya natin inuulit-ulit kasi hindi tayo umabot dun sa puntong yun na hindi dapat mangyari to kasi mali to, no?
Yeah.
Mali to. Paglabag ito sa karapatan natin bilang tao, no? Bilang individual, bilang bayan, hindi pwede mangyari to. Hindi tayo umabot pa dun no? And
Yeah.
and and so that's why we keep going through it over and over again, no? Paulit-ulit natin ginagawa to. Kahit nasigaw tayo ng sigaw na never again. Pero nangyayari paulit-ulit kasi nga hindi hindi malakas, no? Hindi
Mhm.
hindi malakas, hindi matibay yung systems of accountability natin.
Yeah.
At napakadali natin makalimot, no? In this day and age, no, with social media, with AI coming in, with a lot of this information, napakadali nating makalimot, no? I teach an elective in UP on martial law, no? It's not offered every year, but when it's offered, I teach it. And one thing that my students, last time I taught it, one thing my students told me, because I require them to go to the Bantayog ng mga bayani as part of the course, no? And I tell them, just walk around the Bantayog, uh, look at any of the names, ask what that name stands for, anong storya niya, right? And and then I asked them, so ano yung experience nyo? Many of them told me na ito, mga Gen Z to, mga to. Many of them said, nagulat sila na meron palang ganong tao. Ganito pala storya niya, right? So it's something that's so fundamental to us na
Yeah.
hindi dapat tayo makalimot, no? Hindi dapat hand in hand with strengthening accountability systems, institutions of accountability, uh, is not to forget, no?
Yeah.
Uh, because once we forget, tapos na, no? Tapos na
Yeah.
yan.
Yeah.
That's why we keep going back, no? That's why we
Yeah.
keep going back. And so, and then to connect it to the book, that's why the books for us is important.
Yeah.
because it's not just, because we want to say, ay, 50 years old na kami. But no, I say that this book is is a remembrance, no? It looks back at 50 years of work of Flag, no? Pero hindi lang siya remembrance eh. Pag ano rin siya eh. It's also a reminder eh, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Na
That's
yes, marami na tayong nagawa. Pero ang dami pang kailangan gawin, no? Ang
yeah.
dami pang kailangan gawin. So yun. Siguro yun, no?
Yeah.
Accountability system need to be restored, strengthened. And then you should never forget, no? Collective memory should be
Yeah.
restored, really.
Yeah. Those are really good words. Never forget. Huwag makalimot. Uh, Ted, maraming salamat at wishing you Flag another 50 years of being in the front line for human rights. At congratulations on the book. Congratulations on Flag, and sana lumakas pa, dumami pa, at mabuhay kayo.
Salamat, Kaloy. Mabuhay ka rin. Magkita tayo sa book launch.
Yes, yes. Salamat.
Salamat.